Star Trek, the next generation. You love throughout the nation. You're my favourite show. Once in every episode, you're lucky. You don't have to wait for buses. You just step into the transporter and off you boldly go. Mr. Wall's my favourite person.
We are the Org. Our mission is to assimilate Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and beer. Lots of beer.
Hello, friend.
Hello.
Welcome to bOrgCast 6.11.
Hooray.
Hooray indeed. I hope all is well with you. News-wise, Axanar has made its Kickstarter total. Remember we covered this in the last bOrgCast. This project to try and get this fan-made Trek film,
but with cool people in it.
But with some actual actors in it.
And good effects too.
And very awesome looking effects, yep. And they've got the total they need, so it looks like the full movie's going ahead.
Awesome.
Probably mentioned on the forum that Garrett Wang is also on board now as well, so there's another genuine actor. I hope he gets a better role in this than he did in Voyager.
Yeah.
Could only be worse if he stopped making the tea, let's face it.
And never gets promoted at all for 7 years for no reason.
This is the sort of thing that either makes people giggle or really puts them off the internet totally, but I'm in the former category. We have Brent Spiner, LeVar Burton and Gates McFadden now have all taken the Ice Bucket Challenge, which is this insane thing whereby people are challenged to tip a bucket of icy cold water on themselves.
Snooker players are doing it now as well.
Oh my, well it really has become uncool now, snooker players doing it. You imagine Steve Davis. Oh, that was cold. Anyway.
He's been challenged by Ken Doherty.
Wow. Well, Gates McFadden was the last one to do it. I mean, these are all available online should you want to watch these people pour ice cold. Well, Gates is probably the funniest, to be honest, her reaction. And she then passed on the challenge to Patrick Stewart, which if he does it, I'm pretty sure the internet will explode. But it's all in a good cause, raising money towards a charity working to cure motor neuron disease. I retweeted on Tumblr today, bOrgCast.tumblr.com. It's a really good thing somebody's put together of Star Trek races. It's a YouTube clip, but it's very amusing. I'll leave you to discover that. We've had some general feedback from Wayne Peters, who's continued his Deep Space Nine catch-up. Well worth checking out the bOrgCast hashtag on Twitter to be able to see what he's been tweeting with that. It's sort of been tweet-along sort of thing.
Yeah.
He covered Move Along Home, that was one of my favourites. Essentially, the crew are forced into a D&D LARP with a dickhead DM.
Yeah.
Neil Shepherd pointed out that the expanded universe Jellicoe became the head of Starfleet. Right. But apparently he wasn't a great success. He has a breakdown and quits after the Borg invasion, which I don't think is really true to the character. I'm sure he'd be kick-ass, actually.
Yeah.
And we had an email from Brandy, like about 10 minutes ago. So she was doing really well on that one.
Awesome.
Damn, not going to have any feedback ready for this week, but one thing I wanted to cover. It's not Jeffrey Coombs, it's Jeffrey Combs. Like combs you put in your hair. Combs, not Coombs. Say it with me, Combs.
Oh, okay. I just thought it was an American-British difference in pronunciation, but it's his name.
Yep.
If he
Never
says...
heard anybody pronounce it. That's the problem when you read these things.
Yeah, no, that's true. But if he says Combs,
yep.
which,
Well, it is what he says it is.
True. Unfortunately, Michael Piller has since died. Otherwise, he would be correcting you on the fact that throughout this cast, you've insisted on calling him Michael Piler because for some reason you haven't seen the second L in his name. If you listen to the extras on the Blu-rays, now bearing in mind we're in season 6, so that's 6 lots of extras, you should have noticed by now that other people call him Michael Piller.
Oh, right. No, I am notorious for mispronouncing words. I try to remember some of the examples now, but there were some real classics, stuff from Star Wars and Doctor Who, that I could just, because again, I only read about them in books, because back in the day we didn't have DVDs.
Warhammer, Zinch has got 2 E's.
Yes.
You say Zench.
I always say Zench, yeah. So I'm terrible for mispronouncing words, so that, always feel free to correct me, because I'm appalling. She also says, I'm almost halfway through season 7. What am I going to do when I have no more Deep Space Nine? Oh, right, I can rewatch them for your podcast. Sorry about that outburst. Stay calm and trek on, you guys. A maid of win. Hugs, Brandy. P.S. Hi to Purry. Because we kind of feel like a bOrgCast hasn't passed without Brandy saying hello to Purry. So
yeah. Thanks for that, Brandy.
Well done. Yeah. Shall we move on to tonight's episode?
A
miracle turns a fictional character into real live flesh and blood.
As far as I can tell, he's real.
According to the laws of physics, this is impossible.
But this new life form possesses a criminal mind.
I'm afraid I had no choice but to take control of your vessel.
And his ruthless power puts the entire ship in jeopardy.
Unless we move to a safe distance, this vessel will be destroyed.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Well, that did very well, actually, at avoiding any spoilers, didn't
Yes, it did. Yeah.
It also made it seem a lot, again, as they often do, make it seem a lot more exciting than it actually was, but never mind.
I found it interesting.
I think interesting is the best you can say for it, but I think plodding would also be a description I'd sum it up as well. Anyway, let's get stuck in, shall we?
Yeah. So you open with Data as Holmes on the holodeck, and he's in the climax of a case where he's obviously going to accuse this guy of killing his brother.
Yes, he's called the Gentleman in the script. He hasn't got a better name than this, but he's played by an actor called, and I love this, Clement von Frankenstein.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my life.
And as English as he may sound, he's actually an Austrian.
Okay. I wonder
Von
whether
Frankenstein is a bit of a, well, I would have thought a made-up name, but I guess Austrian, if anything.
It does make you wonder whether Frankenstein is perhaps a common Austrian surname.
You never know. It might be like Smith, for all we know. But
Yeah.
it made me giggle when I looked at that.
Yeah.
I'm also not sure about Geordie's accent, but that's never mind. By the by, I hate it when he does a British accent. Ooh, cringe.
Yeah. Anyway, the denouement is supposed to involve Data throwing something and this gentleman catching it in the left hand. He doesn't. He catches it in the right hand, and Data's like, that's not right. So they tippy-tap Reg to investigate.
Yay, Barclay! And his classic comment, oh, did something go wrong with the holodeck again?
Yeah.
He probably ends up spending a lot of time there repairing it, if not in one of his dodgy programs. So yeah.
At least he doesn't have to clean it up.
Well, maybe he does. Maybe that's part of his penance for previous misdemeanours.
It reminds me of that game you played with Matt.
Yeah, now, what was that called? It's a very, very bizarre game, which is on sort of the beta, what do they call it, beta thing.
I wouldn't know.
Very early stages. And basically the idea is that you play the clean-up team after a first-person shooter has gone through and shot loads of aliens in a space station. You have to come up with a mop and bucket and clean it all up afterwards. Very strange.
Anyway, so Reggie's investigating, and there's no problem with the normal files, but the computer mentions protected memory. So he's like, well, obviously it must be in there. So he's like, unlock it and deal with that. And then Moriarty appears. And it turns out that he has been aware of the passage of time.
Of course, we last saw him in Elementary Dear Data, and it's the same actor, Daniel Davis, who's actually, where in the world do you think he's from?
Wales.
No. Arkansas.
Really?
Yes. His natural accent is a deep south one, apparently.
Gosh.
Yeah, he hides it very, very well.
No, the reason I said Wales is because he sounds... Actually, he reminds me in his cadence of Rowan Williams.
Yes, no, he's got that...
Covering an accent English.
It's an English accent that's covering up for a regional accent, and that could be a regional English accent he'd be covering up for, but as it turns out, no, it's
a regional American. No, okay. No, it's just that with a surname like Davies, you see.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
well, maybe that's where his
ancestors came from. No, you're right. No, it was just that's the sort of English... It's like Patrick Stewart's natural Yorkshire.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And his received pronunciation is covering up for natural Yorkshire. So
which sometimes creeps out, doesn't it?
Occasionally. But I wasn't aware of any Americanisms creeping out in this guy's performance at all.
He also appears in The Prestige. He's the judge in that, only a small role. But again, I think he's doing an English accent in that.
Yeah.
But I think he uses his natural accent when he appears in Hunt for Red October.
Is he in that?
He's a sub-captain in that, yeah.
Is he?
Yes.
Oh, God. No, I can't picture him in that.
I hadn't realised it was him until I looked him up for this Memory Alpha, and it's like, oh, when I was watching Hunt for Red October, that's why I recognised that sub-captain.
So it may well be that he's somebody that, because the voice is so different, that you don't... Okay. Barclay is initially flummoxed because he's not aware of the events of Elementary Dear Data.
It does seem a bit stupid they haven't warned him, considering that obviously part of his job is maintaining the holodecks. Why not tell him?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, he doesn't seem... I mean, obviously it's written that he's playing the part of the audience, isn't he?
You are quite, yes.
He's the Doctor Who companion. But it's like, how could you have been aware of the passage of time? We're never given an answer to that. And he asks to see Picard... And then Reggie's like, well, I'll have to store you in memory while I go and ask if he's willing to talk to you. I mean, he seemed to disappear, but then as soon as Regis left the holodeck, he reappears.
He's back and more powerful than ever.
So it's a good teaser.
Yes, it is. It is an intriguing teaser.
Then you get the bollocky boring bit.
Yes, and this is my main problem with the episode is it's from here on inwards. It's about 20 minutes before anything else happens.
Well, the bollocky boring bit is they're going to watch a collision of two planets that might result in the birth of a new star. Now, I can understand that they're a ship of exploration, so this is the sort of job they'll be asked to do.
But in the good episodes, this always happens in the background.
Yeah.
Whereas this played, because they haven't quite got enough material for an episode, there's rather too much of this
Well,
sort of
no,
stuff.
it's not that. It's we are now going to give you a reason why the ship will be in jeopardy.
Yes.
It's like,
Yeah,
it's
there was
almost
that
as though
too.
they flag it up with neon signs and alarm bells.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, we'll need to move to a safe distance in a few hours.
Wouldn't it be awful if we suddenly lost control of the ship?
Oh, yeah. I know,
That's
and it's
never
just
happened.
like they flag it up way too much.
Yeah, they do.
And so even though I remembered the end of this episode, I remembered the beginning, the bit that I'd not remembered was the middle. I mean, even despite that, I was like, oh, okay. It didn't matter what I did or didn't remember. You've, like, signposted this for me in fucking massive letters, haven't you? Which is just bad writing. I mean, it really is. It shouldn't be necessary that you should do that. You know, credit your viewer with some intelligence.
Yeah, well.
So this particular aspect makes me cross as a result of how it's been flagged up. You then get Picard and Data and Barclay going to meet Moriarty in 221B Baker Street. And Picard says that he's tried to see if there's a way to get Moriarty off the holodeck, because that's what Moriarty wants. And he's asked...
Well, Moriarty mess up. Well, you know, it's been so long. Why have you waited so long to come? 4 years. And, of course, it's been 4 years. The real reason it's been 4 years is the estate of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's lawyers, who's, when they found out that Next Generation did it in season 2 without asking permission, weren't best pleased. They were mainly cheesed off, actually, because there'd been that young Sherlock Holmes film that Paramount did, and they were worried that this was going to be another travesty like that, without asking permission. By this time, of course, Next Generation's taken off in a big way, and actually, in actual fact, they could see that this was actually doing the estate of Arthur Conan Doyle a favour by publicising Sherlock Holmes, so they were more than willing for it to happen this time, particularly since permission had been asked. But it has to be said, there isn't an awful lot of Sherlock Holmes. I mean, we don't get Holmes at all, other than sort of Data for a few seconds at the start. It's mainly, actually, it's all about Moriarty, but the Holmes setting doesn't really feature all that much.
No, but Moriarty is a character created by Arthur Conan Doyle.
This is true, so obviously some respect is due for that, but it's not, unlike Elementary Dear Data, where there was an awful lot of Holmes.
Anyway, so he says that Starfleet's finest minds have tried, and he says he's upset to know he's aware of the passage of time, and he does actually look upset.
Yes, no, you can sympathise with that, can't you?
And then you get a demonstration with throwing a book at the holodeck, and it disappears. And he says, look, you know, you're going to disappear if you go out. But then Moriarty, and you can understand his point of view from this point, he says, look, I'm not happy where I am. If I'm just a holodeck program and I disappear, where's the loss? But if I can walk out because of mind over matter, because I have consciousness, which nothing else in this holodeck does, then that's what I want. So he just goes for it.
He says he's going to do it by sheer will.
Yes.
He'll be able to exist outside the holodeck, which immediately, because we've seen it recently, made me think of the Three Doctors and Omega, who's only existing by his own will.
Lift up the mask and he has no face.
Yes, but this is obviously a million miles less camp than the Three Doctors. But it also made me think what Moriarty's looking for is a light bee. From Red Dwarf, so what enables Rimmer to wander around, that's what he needs.
No, I thought what it made me think of was Voyager in the later seasons, just before we stopped watching. It gets this thing.
The EMH gets his
I don't know what they call
mobile holo emitter or something
like that. It's like a bit like a badge he wears on his arm, isn't it?
It's an armband and it enables him to go outside the his medic bay.
Then they're all going, how is it possible? It isn't. Okay.
Because he just walks out and he's all right.
So he's being examined by the doctor, who basically says, well, he's human, but his DNA's a bit unusual. And I liked this touch, actually. Geordi is scanning him with his visor and saying that he can't see any signs of, you know, a lack of cohesion or anything.
Well, he would say that, wouldn't he?
Well, we know that for later.
I know. It's a bit difficult to... I mean, clearly you've already seen this episode before, so, I mean, the bottom line is, it's Inception, folks! It's boxes in boxes.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, this is kind of my problem with the episode, is there is a level of detail here, clearly, with things like Geordie pointing out that he's using his eye. You think, well, presume it's Moriarty who's programmed the holodeck to make it look like this is reality. How would he, really? Would he think about...
He's had 4 years to read all the files. What else is he going to do in that time?
I suppose you could argue he spent 4 years planning this. Yeah, just about. And it's like that when he comes into the Temp Forward and he's like, oh gosh, we're travelling through space, so I can't go above deck, sort of thing. And he already knew that in elementary data that he was travelling aboard a ship that travelled through the stars. But I guess the explanation is it's all an act because he's trying to convince Picard. But you don't find that out straight away, obviously. I mean, it's a nice episode, I think, for the first time you see it, because it's a nice reveal. It has to be said, when you remember the reveal and it's basically Inception, it ain't quite so good.
Well, I kind of remembered half of it.
I mean, you can't criticise them for ripping off Inception, because clearly this came long before Inception.
Yeah.
But all the time I'm expecting...
No, je regrette rien.
Yeah, exactly. Which would have been a much better soundtrack for this episode, but there we go.
Anyway. Then this is where, from my point of view, bearing in mind that there was a large amount of this I didn't remember, it gets a bit odd.
Mm-hmm.
Because he says that he wants... Now he's got off the holodeck. He wants the Countess Virgina Bartholomew to also come off the holodeck as well, because he was programmed to be in love with her.
She is an odd element to this story, it has to be said.
It doesn't...
I don't know if she's actually in Sherlock Holmes or not, but it's very odd.
See, this is the bit that kind of baffles me, really, because the whole thing seems to be about him trying to break his programming.
Yeah.
Rather like Crichton in Red Dwarf.
Uh-huh.
Except that's a better episode.
Yeah.
So why does he not want
It's a banana.
No, it's a short Czechoslovakian traffic warden.
What is it?
It's a banana.
No, it isn't. Try again. What is it?
It's a banana?
No, it isn't. What is it?
It's an... It's an...
It's an orange. Go on, say it. It's an orange. This is an orange.
It's an... It's an... It's a banana. It's no good, sir. I just can't do it.
You can do it. I'm going to teach you how.
So why does he not want to break the part of the programme that ties him emotionally to a part of the holodeck?
Yes.
So that, to me, never rang true.
He knows that the Countess Dubry is just is not real any more than he is. Yet he wants to make this unreal character real because he has real feelings. He ties it around in logic circles, because if he's sentient and he's realised that he isn't real, you see what I mean, then he wouldn't have any honest-to-goodness affections for her. But
he would realise it was part of his programming, and he would want to break away from it.
Yeah.
So the idea, the fact that he wants to explore the world, yes, buy that, get that, makes sense.
Yeah, the fact that he wants to bring her with him, doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it doesn't work at all for me.
Yeah.
And then, Picard's not sure about that, but then the speech he gives makes it seem like if anybody becomes a parent, they're committing a crime. If you bring a new life into this world, the moral and ethical implications, and it's just like, you're not describing parenthood? And I suppose it's in character because Picard isn't a family man. But...
Yes, I see what you mean.
So I found all of that quite awkward and difficult, to be fair. Then you're in the conference room with the Ouchie table of Ouchie, and this is a lot better because you've got Troy saying she can understand that if he does have feelings for her, his request is understandable. Mm-hmm. And you've got the others going, but it's really risky. And they're right, it is, because they don't know. I mean, as Data points out, they don't know how permanent his existence off the holodeck is. They don't understand what's happened. They don't know what they're doing. And so Picard goes to him to try and explain and talks about safety. We can't do this until we know it's safe, which seems to mollify him. And then you've got the boring planety shite, and Worf's supposed to be launching 4 Class A probes, but all the command functions have been locked out, and they've been rerouted, and Picard's command codes are no longer valid because Moriarty has taken control of the ship.
Again.
And it's just like, A, again, B, like we didn't see this coming, and you just went, oh no, if we can't get away in time, da da da.
Yeah.
Picard goes to engineering, where Data and Barclay and Geordie have been working on a way to get this woman, the Countess, I'm just going to call her Cuntess Virgina,
because that's our level.
Yeah.
Crude and obvious, that's who, we're the ones you call.
Well, I could just call her the cunt, couldn't I?
You could, but that's a bit harsh.
She's the Cuntess, right?
The Cuntess.
The Cuntess.
Virgina.
Yeah. Cuntess Virgina. Anyway, they're looking at ways of finding how they can get Cuntess Virgina off the holodeck. And Picard has said he's persuaded Moriarty to allow normal ship functions as long as he believes that they're trying to do this. And he takes Geordi to one side and says, I want to find out how to undo what he's done. Then you've got... I really like this scene, actually, with Reg, because he goes into the holodeck.
Yes, this is one of the best bits of the episode in many ways, yeah.
He goes into the holodeck and he encounters the Cuntess. And he starts setting up stuff with pattern enhancers. And she's like, oh, don't you think I'm intelligent enough to understand or whatever? And he stammers and he's awkward. But actually, he's still really eloquent.
Yeah, no, it's a nice sort of charming interplay between the two characters.
It is.
Isn't it? She's played by Stephanie Beacham.
Now, why do I know that name?
Oh, well, she is a real Brit. She's from Barnet, in fact.
Oh.
She's also been in, though, Dynasty.
Oh.
The Colbys.
Really?
Yeah, Coronation Street and Casualty, so you might be knowing her
from Casualty, yep.
And she's even apparently been in Celebrity Big Brother, for shame. So she's been around a bit, basically.
Well, she's a Cuntess.
That's the Cuntess, yes. I mean, she's okay, perfectly good actress, it's just quite what the character's doing in the story is a bit baffling.
Yeah, and that's not her fault, is it? Anyway, it turns out she knows all about the real world because Moriarty has endowed her with consciousness. So why did he have to ask them to do that then? If he could have done it
No, he wasn't asking them to endure her with consciousness. He was asking them to take her off as well. And they said, well, we don't know how you got off.
No, but earlier on, he asks them to endow her with consciousness. And then he says, it's when they're in 10 forward, and he says, well, it was said to me, why can't you do that again?
Right.
And Picard then says all this stuff about new life and basically how being a parent is a scary thing. Anyway, so it's like, if he could have done it anyway, why ask? Then they're going to try and enhance the pattern to try and beam a chair off of the holodeck. But then it seems as though the attempt to transport the chair never really occurred. And Data's intrigued, and so he goes and interacts with Geordi, who it turns out is using his wrong hand on a pad. But in this particular scene, Geordi has told Picard that he can get the command codes back, so Picard has given his codes. And then Data says, oh, by the way, this is still a simulation. And Picard has just managed to give his command codes to Moriarty.
Did you notice, by the way, that for a change, it wasn't like Alpha 1, 2, 3.
I did notice
or anything
that.
as obvious as that.
It's improved.
It has, hasn't it? But yeah, this is all a big spam scam.
Yeah.
They were lucky it wasn't.
It's phishing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a phishing attempt, and we were lucky it wasn't all about a communication to Picard from Admiral Machev asking for his bank details, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
In order to defeat the Borg, we need to know your bank account number and sort code.
Yes.
Oh, yes, right.
Captain, I have determined how Moriarty was able to leave the holodeck. He never did. Neither did we. None of this is real. It is a simulation. We are still on the holodeck.
So I remember, when we get to the end, I remembered the end.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered the beginning. This is the bit that I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
That they didn't know that they hadn't left the holodeck is the bit I had forgotten. Are you with me? When you then later on get the scenes with Riker and Moriarty, I remembered those. But this aspect, and particularly with Picard being the one who ended up giving Moriarty the command codes, that's the bit I'd forgotten. So Data proves that they're still on the holodeck by picking up his comm badge and throwing it at the warp engines, and the grid appears. So then Picard does the tippy-tappy and says Picard to Riker, what is my present location? And Riker says in engineering. So then Picard says, right, the comm badges are locked into this holodeck cycle. So we're only communicating within the holodeck, we're not communicating out of it. And basically only Data, Picard and Barclay are real. And then Picard realises he's given the command codes to Moriarty, which was very clever.
Well, he didn't know, but yeah.
So then he's like, we have to find a way to give him what he wants. I did wonder then, well, does that mean Moriarty really does have control of the ship, or they only think he does because it's in the holodeck simulation?
Yes, that's the whole thing, because you have those scenes where he's communicating with Riker, and he tells Riker, oh, this is what they've tried in my
But this
ship in a bottle.
only starts now. Up until you see him communicate with Riker, you wonder whether he ever had control of the ship at all.
Yeah, well, he didn't.
Until the command codes were released.
It was given to him, and then
now
he did.
He does.
Yes.
And so he starts the warp core temperature rising. So then Riker gets Geordi onto it, and you get him saying, well, your people in this simulation tried this, so I suggest you try the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And Riker spends the entire episode looking pissed off, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
It's, oh, have I really got to give in to this guy? Oh.
Yeah. Actually, he looked to me more like he had piles or something. And sitting down was the problem.
Well, we know that about him, don't we? And perhaps you've stumbled upon his secrets. That's why he sits down so strangely. It's Riker Has Piles. God damn it, sit down, number one. No, I can't.
Why is his butt cheeks so far apart? Anyway, Picard goes to see Cuntess Virgina and flatters her. And says...
Calls on the charm.
Yeah, asks what she sees in Moriarty. And basically says, look, if we uncouple the Heisenberg compensators... And spouts a load of techno babble.
Yeah, I was going to say, flippity-jippity.
Yeah, then we can do it. But I've got 1,000 people in danger.
He may as well have said, if we reverse the polarity of the neutron flow, you know.
So he says, I've got thousands of lives at stake. I want Moriarty to release the ship, and then I will uncouple the Heisenberg compensators. But Moriarty then uses that information, supposedly, to blackmail Riker, saying this is what you need to do. And so, if you're watching it for the first time anyway, it would appear that this works. That Moriarty is then beamed off the holodeck with the Cuntess, and then he won't give the command codes back because he wants the shuttlecraft to go and explore the galaxy. And so Riker initially is like not going to do it, but they've only got 25 minutes, so he does give him a shuttlecraft, and then Picard appears and asks for the computer to store the program. And that was Picard creating his own simulation.
Yeah, inside a simulation.
Apparently
the writers got very confused by this. They should, all they need to do is wait for 10 years and then they could have gone to see Inception. It would all make sense.
Yeah, it's the speed the music's playing that tells you where you are.
Yeah.
And then he's in his little, what was it you called it looked like?
Oh, he's got a Tesseract.
Yes.
Yeah, the whole programme with Moriarty on it thinking he's escaped is then put in this yellow cube, which is reminded of the blue cube from Thor 2, the Tesseract. And in Guardians of the Galaxy, there's another Tesseract, but it's the globe. And this just looked like the next generation Tesseract, basically, that Barclay's got. Is awesome.
And then you get Picard going, well, how do we know we're not part of somebody else's simulation? Which is the branch of philosophy that's always pissed me off. It either asks questions where nobody needs to know the answer, or it asks questions where the answer is at odds with, say, physics or mathematics or just life.
Life really is a dream.
Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
Merrily, merrily, merrily,
your boat gently down the stream.
I've done it again. Everything goes back to Star Trek 5.
In a sense, you did give Moriarty what he wanted.
In a sense. But who knows? Our reality may be very much like theirs, and all this might just be an elaborate simulation running inside a little device sitting on someone's table. Well, we have a newborn star to study. Mr. Barclay, we'll keep that safe.
Aye, sir. Computer and program.
And you expect him to... What's that thing called, the spinning top thing? Is it dreidel or something like that? Dreidel. You expect him to spin one of those just to see if it really is reality or not.
Yes. Some of the philosophical aspects of this do interest me. If you'd taken the
it's an interesting idea that doesn't fill 40 minutes, and therefore you get a lot of padding, particularly, the first 20 minutes after the teaser. Just like, it seemed like nothing happened. It was really weird. And there was certainly nothing threatening happening anyway.
Well, I didn't feel.
And when you do get to the threat, it's so artificial and signposted so badly, as you say.
I didn't have a problem with the padding. so much as, one, the ridiculous flagging of the thread, and two, Cuntess Virgina and what she's doing there and any of... You know what I mean? That aspect. So if it had just been Moriarty wanting to get off the ship, I would A, have had a lot more sympathy for his character, and B, would have found the whole episode a lot more
it does muddy the waters
interesting.
having the Countess involved, so I don't know why they did that. But there we go. I mean, clearly this feeds into later holodeck characters, like we've mentioned the EMH, but there's also, of course, Vic Fontaine from Deep Space Nine will be coming on to a bit later on as well, who kind of wants a bit of independence. Well, yeah, ultimately, it is too slow for the most part. I found it rather like a blackcurrant donut. It's mostly good, but very disappointing middle.
Okay, fair enough. I don't know. I still like the ideas that it explores in terms of not being confined, if that makes sense.
Shall we find out what other people think?
Yes, let's.
Yes. Okay, we've heard from Fatbone Smith.
Cool. Hello
sir.
Fatbones.
Excellent to hear from you. He says, hoping to sneak in a little something about ship in a bottle under the wire. Probably won't make it in time for the podcast, but I'm going to give it a go. You made it! Let's see, this came in at...
It was while we were watching the episode. My
Yes.
phone went piddly ping and
Yes.
told me that we had a post.
So well done. And you're not the only one to go in. Brandy was literally, as we sat down to press record, we got Brandy's emails. There's a cognitive scientist whose name I don't remember, who every year tells his first-year students about a thought experiment. A guy signs up for a medical trial studying memory manipulation. He goes to the testing centre with his wife, and he's attached to a brainwave monitor and a bunch of high-tech equipment. He's sedated and wakes up the next morning with his wife and the doctor looking over him. The doctor asks him about his dreams, and he tells them what he remembers. Satisfied with what he's told them, the doctor lets him go home. Over the course of the next couple of weeks, the guy's life goes from okay to great. He gets a new job, one that challenges and fulfills him. He and his wife rediscover their passion for each other, and they decide to try for a baby. Life is good. Life is wonderful. Every day he wakes up and there's a smile on his face, just from the sheer joy of being alive. A couple more weeks pass, and then one morning he wakes up in the test centre again. His wife there, and so is the doctor. The guy's confused. He doesn't remember going back to the centre. The doctor explains that the last few weeks' worth of memories didn't really happen. They were implanted into his mind. He has only been in the centre since yesterday, but they got the results they were looking for, and now he can go home. Anybody else thinking Total Recall at this point? Anyway, sorry. From that day on, the man never smiled again. He never felt joy again or exhilaration, never felt fulfilled at work, never felt passion with his wife. Every night he went to bed, he expected to wake up the next morning in that test centre with the doctor looking over him at the side of the bed. His sense of reality had been destroyed. If you leave a holodeck, how can you ever really be sure you left? How can you ever really be sure that you're not still in the programme? Again, Droidal. If the holodeck was capable of creating a faultlessly verisimilitudinous... I thank you. Replica of the real world with replicated food to keep you from starving, and replicated water to keep you from dehydrating, and replicated alcohol to get you drunk. If there were no program glitches of the sort that enabled data to work out that the simulation was still running, how would you know you weren't always in the holodeck? And would it make a difference to the value and substance of your life if you were? This is a good holodeck episode because it makes one consider such things. There is no real answer to any of it, which is why the Matrix totally ignores it. Welcome to the real world. How do I know this is the real world? Shut up, you! There's probably no real practical use to any of it, but I like that this episode at least gestures towards the very real and very enormous ontological implications of holodeck technology that have until now escaped notice. Hell, I haven't come across the word ontological since I did my theology degree. Well done, sir. Yes, I think what he's saying there is that we're dealing with very clever ideas here, which I completely agree. Yeah. I just don't necessarily think that they make for a great 40 minutes of Next Generation episode.
But you've got to think about the time...
Not enough spaceships.
I think it's one of those things where, actually, like Fat Bones, I would want to praise it for trying, and I'd want to praise it for its ideas. Yes, Inception took this idea and did it so much better, but it did it so much later. So I would want to praise it for having a go, basically. Because it didn't get the central conceit wrong. What it got wrong was overly flagging up the danger and Cuntess Virgina.
Okay. We've also heard from Wayne Peters.
And he writes, "Hello, Orgs! Whilst I've not stopped listening to the broadcast, I've been too busy to contribute of late. However, I keep hearing you cover episodes and regret it not watching and chiming in. So I decided once more to try and find the time to contribute some thoughts, even if it's just a short message here or a tweet rather than audio feedback. Hey, that's fine. Short feedback is just as welcome as anything more in depth. With this in mind, I've barreled through DS9 to catch up, and I've started watching TNG again, from Ship in a Bottle. Chain of Command is excellent, but too distressing to have watched more than once.
Well, yeah, I can see where you're coming from on that. I certainly wouldn't want to watch it too regularly, but having said that, the performances are so great. I'm really glad we did watch it recently.
So, my DS9 review thus far in brief is yes, 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 no. Yes, no, yes.
That's good, that is. Yeah, that goes to prove that so far season 1 has actually been pretty good.
Yeah. Which is not, I'm sure you agree, a bad hit rate.
No, exactly.
Yeah. As I mentioned when you first decided to cover DS9, I never saw it when it was originally on, having lost it halfway through season 1. However, I did a full rewatch a few years back, but it was over the course of a few weeks, and it was sort of on in the background whilst I was working, so I didn't really give it the attention it deserved. I'm hoping that watching it properly with you will allow me to appreciate it fully. I think the biggest obstacle I have to overcome with the show is that the Cardassians and Bajorans bore me rigid. However, I'm hoping to have my mind changed, and if not, then there are still plenty of Klingon episodes, particularly Season 2's Blood Oath, which I remember really enjoying.
If Golda Cat by at least Season 3 isn't doing the opposite of boring you, I'd be surprised, because he's such a great character.
But, I mean, we have found, haven't we, that in Season 1 thus far...
He doesn't really exist, does he? It's like emissary.
The really good Cardassian characters, of which there are a number,
don't really...
They haven't featured.
Much at all,
yes. No,
So maybe that's the criticism of Season 1, is not enough Cardassians, but there we are. Carry on.
Anyway, here are some thoughts on Ship in a Bottle. I really liked this one. All I remembered about it was that they trick Moriarty at the end into thinking he's free. I forgot that Moriarty does it to them first, and that was great to have it sprung on me halfway through. I loved the ship within a ship, like, okay, sorry about my pronunciation in advance, Matryoshka nesting dolls?
Oh, so look, see if I can do any better on that. Yeah, no, I can't.
Fair enough. And I love Barclay's quick test to make sure he was on the real Enterprise at the end. I also like the way they use Barclay as the Greek chorus in the beginning to fill in the viewers who might not be familiar with the original episode. Altogether, a clever and intelligent episode and great fun.
I think that's another of my problems with this episode, actually, is that sort of Barclay's wheeled on quite early on, and you think, oh, good, a Barclay episode. He doesn't really feature that much, does he? He's very much in the background, and other than the nice scene with the Cuntess and the really good scene at the end... all the best moments, actually, I think, of the episode revolve around Barclay, but he's not in it enough.
See, I like this one because it shows him doing his job and doing it well.
Yes.
And I think because of the episode...
He's not fucking up for a change. Yeah.
And I think because the most recent episode was that, with him in, was that plexing one.
Yeah.
I think actually we've needed an episode showing him why he's on the Enterprise.
Cool, that's great, yes. But even so, more Barclay would have been better, I think. Okay, we also heard from the Mark. I was on holidays last week and have not had time to write proper reviews, so keeping it short. I hope you had a good holiday, sir.
Yes, I hope you did.
Ship in a Bottle. I love it. Hate the fact he got old. I know real life, but it still bugs me, and the hand wave is worse. You think you're talking about the actor that plays Moriarty, possibly?
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm assuming. Like the fact that Oxford professors think the second most likely end of the world is someone turns off the holodeck.
It's the reference to what Picard is saying about how we're not real, except rather than it being the holodeck, it's I'll be somebody's dream, is I think what was originally envisaged in the 18th or 19th century by philosophers. But yeah, it's the same principle. So that's interesting. So just talking about the Mark's feedback, I'm not aware of this. Has the actor aged noticeably then between episodes?
Well, it's 4 years down the trot.
Because some people do in 4 years and some people don't.
Yeah, well, it's been a year since, at least, if not 18 months since we've seen Elementary Dear Data, so...
Yeah, because it makes me wonder, because if he has aged noticeably, you can understand why that would be jarring to someone.
It's not jarring to us, but then, as I say, it's been about 18 months since we've seen the episode.
But if you watch them closer together,
I guess
perhaps it's visible.
But obviously, originally, it would have been 4 years down the line anyway, so people would only vaguely remember what he looked like anyway.
Exactly.
So I don't think it would have mattered. Yeah.
No. But then also, you can kind of understand that perhaps some of our listeners might have gone back and watched Elementary Dear Data as kind of a preparation for watching this. And if they've done that, they'll notice it.
You will, I guess. Okay, we've also heard from Dimbo Sama. He's got his hands full at the moment surviving the latest Silent Hill, apparently.
Yeah.
But he has sent us a couple of these Senryu, which, again, I'm probably pronouncing badly. And I'm no good at poetry, so you'll have to read that.
Okay, we've got Software becomes man. Prisoner in his small box. The best choice for now.
Okay, yeah.
Like a haiku, but about technology.
Yeah, I don't understand haikus either.
It's a certain number of syllables.
I know the theory. I just don't understand. I don't understand poetry, so it lost on me. But thank you, anyways.
Sorry,
I'm sure it meant a lot.
I understand
Good.
poetry. I appreciated it, even if he didn't.
It's a banana.
You can't even spell banana.
I know I can't spell banana. Is it a classic
You don't know when to start
Terry Pratchett line? I can't stop spelling banana. That's my problem with that word, yeah.
An opinion. You tend to write opinonion.
Oh, don't. I'm just... I fail.
Oh, but you're lovely. And at least you didn't write anything in your brains, unlike me in the last broadcast.
That was so much fun. Because, was it that line or the wharf line?
The wharf line, where I was convinced I said wharf and I said record.
Yes, and like at the end, when we finished record, I said, why did you say record? And he said, no, I didn't, I said wharf. And of course, when I'm editing, no, she said record.
Yeah. I just failed totally, I think, last time.
No, you didn't. It was very amusing.
Oh, okay.
Anyways... That brings us on to our MP3 feedback. So let's hear what the Pie Man, aka Purry, made of Ship in a Bottle.
Hello, Orgs. Purry here to talk about Ship in a Bottle. I was quite surprised by this episode. I was really ready to slag it off. When it first started and Moriarty appeared and Barker looked surprised, I was about to go on a huge rant of, they didn't tell anyone? They had suddenly spontaneously generated sentient hologram sitting in their holodeck, and has that just been lurking in the memory the whole time? All the danger the ship's been in since Ship in a Bottle, since the last Elementary Dear Data, and they've never... removed the thing and put it somewhere. They just created life literally by accident, and it's been lurking in the computer. But in fairness, Picard does say that no, they've been researching it a lot of people at Starfleet. I still don't know why Moriarty was lurking in the computer. That niggle aside, the episode I quite enjoy. Essentially, Moriarty walks out the holodeck, and it turns out to be a plot of his to try and kind of force the hand of Picard to allow him to leave the holodeck properly. And I thought it was quite neat. The reveal, and it actually still worked this time round, I think this is the second time I've seen this, the reveal of when you find out that in fact for the last while they've been wondering about the ship and Moriarty's been there, initially this is what you think the episode's about a hologram's come out of the holodeck, look, here's Moriarty looking at everything like he's astounded by it, and all of a sudden you get that twist about halfway, 3/4 of the way through the episode, where you find out that no, in fact, they're sitting within a simulation, and I found that quite a neat sort of part of it, that suddenly the episode kind of turns itself on its head, and indeed at the end, the kind of nested simulations was quite an ingenious solution, and they now have it kind of sitting, running, and he's effectively, instead of just being shut down, he's having adventures and trooping about, and presumably that cube thing in his box will be used for, put back to Starfleet Command to study. But in fact, you could wonder, was the beginning of Moriarty the thing which allowed them to make the holographic Doctor from Voyager? Interesting thought, just a bit of metafiction. But yeah, overall, while it's maybe not going to set the world on fire, I found it a rather entertaining episode, and it did keep my attention. And I mean, the drama was almost unnecessary. I think they just needed to give them a bit of a time limit to get out, but like I say, beyond that, it was actually a clever episode which didn't go where you expected, and I think that's really worth a second look quite often, or at least a positive review. So I will be back shortly to talk about Vortex, or if I've yet again got the order wrong, I won't, and I'll have already said bye and enjoy my podcast. But until then, or not until then, bye for now.
You've not got it wrong yet, mate, so don't worry.
You've always been right.
Yes.
You worry about this and you're always fine. What'll happen, right, is you'll stop worrying. That'll be when you get it wrong.
Oh yeah, there you go. I can quite see where you're coming from on that.
Yep.
Obviously found it a little more engaging than I did, but probably on the same line as you.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Cool, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we've also heard from Drew and Tracy.
Hello Peter and Emery, this is our feedback for Star Trek Next Generation episode Ship in a Bottle. This episode was quite confusing. It started off a bit blando, Calrissian, and I did say to you at one point, what is this episode about? Where is it leading to? And then all of a sudden it kind of got a bit groovy. It was more about consciousness, you know, and things like that. It was more a thinky episode. And I know you kind of said, oh no, this is a really good one. And I did enjoy it. I'm not sure it's up there with the best. I don't know. What do you think?
I think I really enjoyed this episode.
I knew you would.
I remembered it, and there was no surprises for me, but I was watching you to see what you did. I was just like, I really liked this episode.
And what did I do though?
I was just seeing what your thoughts were. Unfortunately, once you've seen it, it's completely spoiled, and it's great. I like it. I like it a lot.
It's an interesting episode. It kind of puts Picard into his thinky, compromising, I can't think what the word is I want to say, you know,
negotiating.
Yes, almost role, rather than fighting the baddies and being the commander of a starship. Yeah. You know.
Anyway, let's go to some points.
I mean, I do remember Moriarty. I remember him from another episode. You know, season 2. Did we say he was in?
It was season 2, yeah.
Of Deep Space Nine. No, I can remember.
Alaska, he was with.
But I do remember that episode, and I remember seeing them in like the holodeck before. So it was nice to see him again.
Yeah, you know, I don't understand why when he first walked off of the holodeck, you know, Data, analytical mind, and possibly Picard, they should have just gone, hold on a minute, something's not right here. You know, this cannot happen. I think the easiest option is we're probably sitting on a holodeck and it's all a trick.
Yeah, but how would you know that?
Because you would. You'd go, they'd look very logical people, and they'd go, that cannot happen in reality. Even Picard said at one point, he said, this defies the laws of physics. I just think I would go, what is the easiest explanation of this? I'll tell you what it is. That is all a big trick.
But we did say right at the end, Data is the one who has kind of like the microscopic mind, who, you know, analyses everything, kind of takes all the data in.
A very good
and
point.
He saw that Geordi used his pad with his left hand, and that's how he knew that they were on the holodeck.
I mean,
Picard has got too much on his brain commanding this starship to bloody wonder what is going on with every person who's changing from the left hand to the right hand. So Data is the one to do it. So the computer was on lockdown to Moriarty's command only. So how did Riker command the shuttle bay doors open?
Well,
that's very weird.
Now hold on. You've been fooled there, because that was still the
simulation.
Yes,
it was. Yes, okay, I backtrack in my face.
It's a good point. You said it at the time, and I was like, yeah, you're right. But no, it wasn't. That was still.
But now I know
it. You know what? Moriarty should have noticed that. He should have gone, but I have not given you back the command yet, so I know that this is simulation.
So what do we think of that overall?
I really love it. That's really my kind of episode. It's a kind of metaphysics, philosophy, ticks all the boxes. I really enjoyed that. I was watching you because I knew that you possibly didn't remember it, or more likely...
I remember it from season 2.
Yeah, but you've probably not seen the episode. So I was watching your reaction. I loved it. It really is good.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad episode, to be fair. A little bit actionless, you know. I'm kind of watching a lot of Deep Space Nine, a lot of Next Generation.
You don't need action, though.
No, but I do. I want the Borg to come in. I want some kind of battle.
You don't. This is a mind episode. It's great. I loved it. I like it at the end as well. You know, when Barclay was saying end program. That's like life, isn't it? It's like, is this real or is this imaginary?
That's very deep, Drew, to be fair. And on that note, we'll say night. Bye!
End programme.
Nice touch, yes.
Nice, yes.
I'm kind of with Tracy on this, I think. Yes, it's a bit dull in places, but ultimately not a bad episode. It's certainly got a good concept to it, but it's very slow to start.
Whereas I'm more with Drew. I mean, as I have mentioned the flaws it has, but I find the concept it's exploring interesting, and so I don't find it.
And it must. And what he was saying, it must be really fun to watch it with somebody who's watching it for the first time.
Yeah, a bit like you had with me watching Fight Club.
Yes, exactly. Any film or program that's got a twist like that, it's great to introduce it to somebody new, isn't it? It's like, you kind of get the experience again then, don't you? So, yeah. I thought it was a bit unfair. I mean, they kind of sort of realised that certainly Picard had too much on his mind to realise, the little details that were giving it away. But ultimately, this idea of being a simulation within a simulation is quite radical new at this stage.
Yes, it is.
But once you've seen the episode, you do kind of come to expect it then, I guess. And certainly once you've seen Inception, you do.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Well, I guess that brings us on to our Deep Space Nine episode, which I believe you didn't remember much of.
None.
So this is going to be an interesting one.
Okay.
It all came flooding back to me, but it'll be interesting to see if it does to you.
Odo's mysterious life hides a haunting secret.
You've heard of other shapeshifters.
What would telling you get me?
Now, a fugitive unlocks the key to his past.
From the colony of the Changeling.
Tell me where it is.
I have to show you.
To learn the truth.
I want you to escort the prisoner.
Odo will risk his life.
I don't give up my prisoners.
Then you can die with him.
On the next Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Another excellent trailer.
Yes.
We may touch upon Section 31 at some point, which is our spoiler zone. And if we do so, we'll give due warning.
Yep.
And we'll tell you when to fast forward to, so if you're watching Deep Space Nine for the first time, you can avoid any spoilers. Odo orders the usual in Quarks, i.e. nothing.
Yeah, I like that.
He's aware there's a Miradoran raider docked and suspects Quark is doing business with them. Odo points out a new arrival brought back from the Gamma Quadrant by the Klingons. He's called Croden. He's played by somebody called Cliff de Young, who was the lead singer of a 60s psychedelic rock band called Clear Light.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a bit of research on this on YouTube, and theirs is not a good sound.
Oh.
Apparently the most well-known song is called Mr. Blue. And, well, if you've watched Middleman,
Yeah.
you know Pip's poetry, Hey
Yes.
Mr. God?
Yeah.
It's basically that to very bad music.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Blue. We've got our eyes on you. The evidence is clear.
Cronin himself doesn't look particularly impressive, it has to be said, with a very standard forehead job and a very nondescript grey outfit.
And bad hair. Why
bad
is
hair.
it that at the moment, in both Next Gen and Deep Space, I suppose they're around the same time, aliens not only have to have forehead ridges, but really bad hair?
Rather more impressive, in terms of looks anyway, are the twinned Miradorns who arrive in Quarks. They've got a very cool forehead design and very nice looking bulky grey and black outfits with cool boots that you see at one point. Bizarrely, and I'd always assumed it was like they'd employed twins to play them, but no, it's only one actor.
Oh,
yeah, they've done
both.
split screen stuff. Yeah, it's called Randy Oglesbury, and he plays both. He was in Next Generation Season 2's Loud as a Whisper as the scholar in Reva's
I know,
Chorus. Yep. Yeah, and he'll return in Season 5 of Deep Space Nine, and he also plays a role in Enterprise as well.
They're, what do you want to call it? Makeup, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
This kind of makeup and costume is a bit odd. Because they've got this collar thing.
Ah, yes.
That goes round their neck, but the skin's kind of over the top of it somehow. It's a bit odd.
That wasn't by design. They just decided that looked better. But yes, it was kind of, I think it was supposed to be like a necklace that was going to cover the join between the head makeup and the rest of it. But they decided actually it was better folding it over. But yeah, it does look odd.
Yeah.
But unusual, I suppose. And they're quite impressive, really. Anyway, the twin Miradorns nod at Quark, but he explains that to Odo as just being because he's the one with the holosuites, basically. He accuses Odo of being paranoid, suggesting it's the reason why they haven't met another of his species since they must be all hiding, which is interesting for Section 31 reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Quark orders Odo out. Surely he can't do that. Odo's security can be anywhere, can't it? But anyway, he fails to surreptitiously get Rom to get some drinks for his impending meeting with the Mirrodorn. And, surprise, surprise, an extra glass appears on the tray when Rom's back is turned. Now, Odo becoming the glass is another stretch. I mean, remember we had the problems about him becoming a mouse. Well, this is even worse because somehow he's able to change into something that's see-through. Is that kind of weird? Plus, he turned into one glass. Isn't he going to weigh a ton as he reduces to the size of a glass? Rom surely should have noticed. It's all very odd, this shape. Apparently, the series writers explained it as being Odo somehow occupies a parallel dimension when he shapeshifts, so his excess mass goes into the extra dimension. But to be honest, that's pretty wanky, isn't it?
I think it was Purry who said this. If Odo is hollow, he's not going to weigh that much.
He can't be that hollow, surely, to be a see-through glass. It doesn't make any sense.
But glasses can be very heavy, even though they're see-through.
Not that heavy. And as the Deep Space Nine companion also points out, what about his communicator? Is that part of him? Or is it part of his outfit, in which case when he shapeshifts he should lose it? Oh, better not to think about these things, really. Anyway, let's move on. So that's our teaser, so it's nicely mysterious. The Mirrodorn are offering what looks like a Fabergé egg to Quark. Nice to see they haven't fallen out of fashion. The Ferenghi's buyer, however, has backed out because a similar one had been taken in a violent raid, and Ferengi asks for a bill of sale, which does not go down well. Croden enters, pointing a phaser and demanding the egg. One of the Mirrodorn hits him with a table, knocking the glasses off the top. One smashes and reforms as Odo. Again, how does that work? He's in different bits. Bloody hell.
They all kind of come together and become...
They do, but he's separated on point. He's been smashed to bits. Oh, does your head in. Constable restrains Croden, but not before he shot one of the Mirrodorn dead. The surviving Mirrodorn informs Sisko that they were more than twins, but rather in some sense joined together, two halves of one being, and he reveals his only purpose in life now is to see Croden dead. Quark points out that he was just as concerned as anyone that the egg may have been stolen. Odo points out that this is curious.
It's curious that Croden had a Ferengi phaser. Available in many a port. And it's curious that he knew the Mirrodorn were trying to sell you something of value. How dare you suggest that my brother set up this robbery? What an interesting theory, Rom.
If that theory should ever reach the Mirrodorn, I'd wake up dead one morning.
Which is a wonderful phrase.
Yeah. A Rom in this scene.
Oh.
How dare you accuse my brother of... It's just like, oh yeah, go Rom.
Go Rom, put your foot in it, mate. Yes.
Yeah.
Sisko sees Croden next to explain the legal process, and apparently on the planet he's from, which is called Riker, there are no trials. He refers to Odo as being a changeling, which is the debut of that particular phrase.
Yeah.
We'll be hearing a lot more of that.
Changeling.
Turn and face the strain. Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man.
Sorry.
Thank you. I don't never apologise for bringing up a Bowie song. Sisko is meeting with the senior officers to discuss Croden. Kira suggests that his planet will thank them for returning a criminal, and the commander and Dax head off in a runabout to find Riker. Odo is trying to get information about Croden from Quark, who claims to know nothing. Apparently, Morn has told the constable that Quark brought the visitor a meal. Quark says Morn should keep his big mouth shut. And this is the first reference to Morn's name. I mean, he's been in every episode so far, but it's the first time he's got a name attached to him. And it's the first reference to the running joke that he's always talking, despite the fact we never see that on screen. And give Mark Alan Shepard, who plays Morn, his due. He somehow managed to make that makeup look like Morn feels guilty.
Yeah, he does.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's just incredible because it's all one-piece mask, but somehow he gives it an amazing amount of expression.
It's the eyes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not just the eyes, actually. He manages to get the mouth move somehow. I don't know how.
I think he does it with his body posture as well.
Quark says he felt sorry for Croden, and Odo doubts that was his motive. Apparently he's heard Quark is trying to secure passage for Croden back to the Gamma Quadrant. Odo is then called away to security as Aquiel, who's the surviving Mirrodorn, and his crew are blocking the door to security, demanding Croden's death. Constable orders him back to his ship. He then goes to see his prisoner, who keeps dropping juicy tidbits about the changelings, like the fact that they're distrustful of other species, and they were persecuted on Riker and driven off the world. Say no more, 631. He says he knows a place where there's still some left. And he wants Odo to take him there, but the constable is still very suspicious of his lying, or dissembling as he calls it. Crowden shows him a locket that he wears, which he claims is from the colony of the changelings, and it's sort of made of the same substance as Odo, except it's purple. And it sort of becomes erect very phallically. Sisko hails Riker, and a representative of the world, who's called an exarch, demands Crowden to be returned because he's an enemy of the people. He's not the most pleasant chap, but Sisko agrees to return their citizen. Bashir, meanwhile, confirms that the purple phallic thing is alive, and indeed resembles Odo in many ways.
You resemble a big penis.
Crowden claims to have found the locket in the Charmer Vortex and offers to take Odo to the colony of the changelings that live there. This is our Vortex of the title.
Whereas my brain just goes changeling all the time. Sorry.
Sisko orders Odo to return Crowden to Riker, following a request from the Bajoran government. Odo points out that they're going to have trouble getting the prisoner past Aquiel, who's been scanning every ship leaving the station. Sisko suggests hiding alongside a Rigelian freighter that's due to leave. Now, this is a species that's mentioned in the original series and is actually shown in Enterprise. Problem is, the Miradorn raider apparently can outrun the runabouts. Freighter turns out to be our old friend, the Mondor, from Samaritan's Snare in its last Trek appearance. Bye-bye, Mondor. We love you. It's a nice model. But they have rather overused it, so probably about time it was retired.
Yeah. I do like what the Miradorn ship looks like, though.
Yes, we'll come on to the Miradorn ship shortly.
Okay.
As they escape on the runabout, Crowden claims both his wives, interesting, were murdered by the authorities on Riker as part of his punishment for being an enemy of the people. And then he creepily describes killing the security guys with a carving knife. It's all a bit Silence of the Lambs at this point. Odo threatens to sedate him for talking too much.
You talk too much. You talk too much. You never shut up. You talk too much.
You like to say everything you know. That shouldn't take too long. You like to say everything you think. Oh, that shouldn't take you too long. I'm beginning to lose my concentration. This is a never-ending conversation. You talk too much. You talk too much. You never shut up. You talk too much.
Who's that by then?
Sultan's a ping.
Okay. That just makes me think of Sensei Ping now, middleman. But anyway, let's move on. Aquiel throws Rom into Quark's and demands to know where Crowden has gone. He blames Quark just as much for his brother's death. Under threat of death, Quark uses his security rods to hack the station's computer again. This is about the second or third time he's done this. Discovering the coordinates of the runabout's destination. As Aquiel leaves, Rom congratulates Quark on his plan, which will rid them of both Crowden and Odo. Again, I'd forgotten that Rom had started out this bloodthirsty. It's really weird, isn't it? Quark, on the other hand, seems genuinely concerned for the safety of Odo. Despite the station crew's attempts to delay them, the raider leaves the station, heading for the wormhole.
Now it's time to get anal about spaceships. Woohoo!
Now, this is a brand new model that will also be used in Next Generation Season 7 Gambit's Part 1 and 2, which is the story I'm looking forward to. And speaking of reused effects, the Charmer Vortex is a reuse of the Mutara Nebula from Star Trek 2, just recoloured and turned upside down. Crowden claims changelings don't maintain a humanoid shape, refusing to assimilate on his world due to pride. Strokey chin, strokey chin. He claims to have been well treated by them, though, due to a sense of decency and justice. Then they're attacked by the Miradorn raider, and Aquiel demands Crowden is turned over to him. When Odo refuses, the raider opens fire again. We have lots of great effects at this point. Crowden offers to take them into the Vortex, which would screen them from the Miradorn sensors. It has to be said that hiding in nebulas stroke vortexes using these self-same effects is becoming something of a Trek cliche at this point. Not only Star Trek 2, but Chain of Command, for instance, we had that and that as well. But hey, apparently the vortex is full of an explosive gas, and so they have to slow down and go on to hide on a planetoid to shelter. On the planetoid, Odo demands the truth from Crowden, and he admits that the colony is a complete fiction, but there were changes at Riker at one time, adding to the mystery about Odo. Crowden reveals the shape-shifting locket is actually a key rather than a penis, and leads Odo to a stasis chamber containing his daughter.
I've got the key, I've got the penis, I've got the key. Sorry.
You.
I've got the key, I've got the secret, I've got the key to another way. I've got the key, I've got the secret, I've got the key to another way.
Anyway, it turns out to unlock this stasis chamber, which reveals Crowden's daughter, who's called Yareth. They come under attack again and run back to the runabout, but Odo is knocked out by a landslide. Crowden carries him back despite clearly considering leaving him for a second. Back on the ship, he claims Odo is heavier than he looks, unless he's a glass, obviously, in which case he's lighter than he looks. The danger is that one of the Raiders' photon torpedoes is going to ignite the gas in the vortex and kill them all. But Odo has a plan, takes over the con, heading for one of the gas pockets. The Raider finds them and fires, but at the last minute Odo engages the runabout's engines, getting them clear of the explosion. And it's a nice effect with this big purple cloud billowing out.
Lovely.
Crowden asks Odo to look after Yareth, but then they're hailed by a Vulcan science vessel who's captained by a very attractive looking Vulcan. She's played by Kathleen Garrett, who will return in Season 6 Voyager episode. They're headed back to Vulcan, and Odo asks if she will transport the two survivors he's picked up, so he claims. And then we have a very Odo line about not wanting to be thanked.
Don't thank me, I already regret it.
He says he will claim they were killed by Aquiel. Crowden gives Odo the locket, and we get our first look at the changeling's smile, which you don't get very often.
And it's a bit odd and creepy.
Yeah, and he only gives it to children as well, just to add to the creepiness. But there we are. It's just the makeup makes it look odd. But yes, it's a big grin that Odo reserves for children. As he returns to Deep Space Nine, Odo tells the phallic key that someday they'll return home.
Because he's got the key, he's got the penis.
Yes. Anyway, the writers were aiming for a Western vibe with this, with the bad guy being taken by the sheriff to receive justice, but learning more about him on the way, so you can kind of see that. And it's an excellent tale, I think. A rollicking adventure, exploring some of the mystery around Odo, dropping subtle hints for the future, juicy danglers. Yes, much of which will pay off much later on. There's plenty of action, including space battles, which always makes me happy.
Lots of purple.
Lots of purple vortex shots.
Make me happy.
Crowden's an interesting character.
Yeah.
Not a bad actor. The first time you watch the episode, the reveal of his daughter is a big
Well, it wasn't
surprise.
the first time I saw this, but I'd forgotten it.
Ah, nice. So all in all, another top-rate Season 1 story. The only beef I have with it, the title's a bit nondescript, really.
But it's better than pretentious.
I suppose so, yes.
I think the problem I have with it is the makeup, bad hair of Crowden and Yareth. I do find it distracting, actually.
Yes, but beyond that...
But other than that, yes, it's very good. And I have to say, I particularly like the look of the Miradorn ship.
Yes, that's a cool ship.
And there's one shot that I really loved, which was the point of view of Ops, looking at the screen, watching the Miradorn ship go over Deep Space Nine and into the wormhole.
Yeah,
I loved how that looked.
All the ships move really fast and, it looks cool.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, how old this is, which is, 15 years old? 20?
Yeah, at least, yeah.
And, an awful lot of these effect shots are really standing up. Bearing in mind, this, unlike Next Gen, which we are watching on a remastered Blu-ray, this is just ordinary DVD. They haven't done anything
But
with
it's all practical effects, and therefore it looks great.
It's brilliant.
It's as good as spaceship
brilliant.
stuff ever got, as far as I'm concerned.
It does look awesome. I mean, I happen to love the design of Deep Space Nine, so any shot with that in, I'm going to like anyway. And lots of purple vortex.
So there's a nice little mystery story with, as I say, little juicy danglers dropped in there.
Yes.
Let's hear what Sampo has to say. Yes, we've heard from Sampo. Hello.
Hello, Sampo. And he says, hello, Orgs. Sorry for my over-month-long absence, but I've let less important things, such as having a summer holiday with my family, get in the way of more important things, like watching 20-year-old episodes of a sci-fi show.
Oh, well.
And then, when I was all ready to continue, you went and did an all TNG episode.
It'll happen occasionally.
It will, with two-parters we will. I mean, further down the line, there'll be DS9 two-parters, and we'll do the same then.
Well, obviously, once we've exhausted Next Generation Season 7, then it'll mostly be Deep Space Nine, just with the occasional movie and occasional covering the Season 1 Next Generation that we will cover.
Uh-huh. You'll have to find ways to pay me. Sorry. Back to Sampo's feedback. But now I'm back on track and giving feedback for Vortex. And it's for the most part a pretty average episode. No major flaws, but nothing gripping either. The plotline of the criminal, who turns out to be a good guy after all, is pretty worn out, and this episode offers nothing new to the old formula. The twin species is at least a bit more interesting than your basic alien of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Also worth noting that a captain with a single starship can basically threaten the entire station. Starfleet should have put a bit more effort into securing the place, taking into account its importance next to the wormhole and all. Odo turning into a glass was cool. I guess this proves that he can change his mass as well as his shape.
Well, quite.
Speaking of Odo, we start to learn a bit more about him, and although Crowden is mostly lying, nothing in this episode contradicts what we learn later in the series. Odo should really Odo should really start upgrading the security of the station, since it seems Quark can access any station systems without any effort at all.
I say this is about the third time he's done this, and I'm pretty sure he goes on to do it a lot more as well.
Yeah. We have a sort of space battle, and we see all of it from inside a runabout. Disappointing, but understandable because of budget reasons. So in the end it was okay, but nothing special, and hard to think of any interesting feedback for it, so hoping for a better episode next time. As a side note, I was happy to hear praise for The Player of Games, since it's one of my all-time favourite books as well, although maybe, just maybe, I think Use of Weapons is a better book.
Okay, we also had some feedback on this episode from Wayne Peters. All I remembered about this one was the shapeshifter key, so I had no idea where it was going. This was a great Odo episode and planted a few seeds for the future. René Auberjonois has a way of making the usually gruff Odo come across as vulnerable as a child in the blink of an eye. Superb acting. Yes, he's really good in this, isn't he? Yeah. I also like that the antagonist appeared to be a wrong 'un all the way through, but turned out okay in the end. A nice twist. I'm not sure why he kept his daughter in stasis. I guess if he didn't know when he'd be back, it meant not having to make sure she was provided for.
Yes, logical. She couldn't be kidnapped either.
Mm-hmm. Also, Dax at one point says he was picked up 3 light years from the wormhole. There aren't many Class M planets in that area. It seemed like an odd thing to say. Surely there'd only be one star system in such a comparatively tiny area of space, comparatively close to the station. They'd most likely be Bajor's neighbour, and they'd almost certainly know which star it was and what planets were orbiting it. Maybe I misunderstood. Anyway, another good episode in a run of mostly good episodes so far. One final thing to say on Deep Space Nine. It's a bit confusing at this point as to how much contact the Alpha Quadrant has with the Gamma Quadrant. There appear to be freighters going through the wormhole, but at the same time, we don't appear to have many species from the other side. Who are the freighters trading with? The Hunters? The Wadi? Yes, they do keep it a little bit vague, because it's just sort of initial contact with particular planets in the Gamma Quadrant. But by the time, I'm not sure if it's this season or the next season is done, all will be revealed, basically.
I think as well that one of the reasons you get things like Quark's building bridges, you get that with the Wadi, and in this episode this is the guy the Klingons have found.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point about the wormhole is it's free passage for anyone, and not all the other races from the Alpha Quadrant who are going through the wormhole obey the same protocols as the Federation. And so we're not necessarily going to hear about the people and the trade agreements and everything else that the non-Federation races have encountered and engaged with and set up. So I think there's a deliberate vagueness there, because this is not only the Federation going through the wormhole.
Well, that's an excuse for the vagueness, but obviously the vagueness is quite handy in terms of world building. But there we are. What does the Mark have to say about Vortex?
And he says, Odo becomes real for the first time so far and lets the crook go. And said crook spill what he knows about Odo's kind and the fact Odo has a kind. That's not going to be important at all.
Stroke your chin, stroke your chin. Okay. And we also heard from Dimbo Sama, who had another one of his Senryus. Using one to save life, probably alright, But now Odo is sad. Okay. These are clearly working on a far higher level than I'm capable of. We've also had some feedback from Drew and Tracy.
Hello, Peter and Anne-Marie. This is Drew and Tracy giving our feedback for Vortex.
I think it's interesting. Is this the first time that Odo's been called a changeling?
No.
Is it not?
No.
He's been a shapeshifter before, hasn't he?
Okay.
I think this might be. I don't know though, don't know.
Is that like the yeah, okay, it might be. Maybe I've heard it before and I'm just assuming that he has been called changeling before. But yeah. Everyone seems so bleeding angry on Deep Space Nine.
They are.
You know, Cisco is just forever acting like he's got the arseache, and like, Odo, God, you know, if he could smash someone in the face 24 times a day, I think he would. He's so angry all the time.
Yeah, Cisco said to Odo, oh, you know, you can take the prisoner back to the Gamma Quadrant, and we're going to just completely run about, and if the Myrmidons chase you, they're going to outclass you in every way. It's like, what's going on
So
there?
you can go out, you can do what you like, but if they kill you, you're dead.
It's put him in quite a bad situation now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a bit harsh. Thanks, Cisco. So the shuttle is a starship vessel and should only obey commands from designated officers.
Well, I thought that, yes.
Right? But how come it recognised, what's his face, the prisoner?
Karanon, is
Yeah.
it?
How come it recognised him
I
and
wondered that
obeyed a
as well.
command from him?
Because Odo just took his handcuffs off and immediately he was like, computer, do this.
Yeah.
Like, could he have done, like, computer, all stop or whatever, or
Well,
shield
exactly, but
down?
as we said, you know, if he was going to obey him, why did he have to take off his handcuffs?
Well, no, he had to take off his handcuffs so he could pilot it, but I just thought that as well. As soon as he took his handcuffs off, he was giving commands to the computer.
Yeah, he was in command of the shuttle and he could have crushed it into something.
I guess you could say perhaps the computer is sentient enough to realise that once Odo took his handcuffs off and sort of let him be in charge, that it could take commands of him.
But then how does the computer know that he's taking his handcuffs off?
Well, because
he hasn't got eyes.
Yeah, well, he has.
He ain't
got
looking into
sensors.
the... No,
I think that's a real kind of like trying to bend the rules to make it work kind of way, but it could have done.
Well, I'm not convinced. I think that was a little bit of it. Twisting it, didn't like it. That was wrong. Where was the markings on Odo? I got a crack on the noggin from a great big long
I wonder
bloody
this, why would a changeling really get knocked out by a rock?
Why?
I mean, because they're like a liquid, aren't they? Naturally liquid. He's only assuming human form, so you would think, you know, human gets knocked out if he gets hit on the head because it affects his brain.
That's a very good point, actually.
I don't
So
know.
there's nothing to knock out, is
Would
there?
Odo get knocked out? Not too sure.
I wasn't overly impressed when you said we was watching Deep Space Nine tonight. I was a bit like, nah. And now you said, oh no, it's a pretty good episode, but I'm still...
No, I didn't know it was a pretty good episode.
But
I've
I'm
never seen it
still...
before.
Nah. You know...
It was okay. Fair to middling.
Nah, I'm still... Nah.
I enjoyed it. It was interesting at the beginning because I thought, oh, is this going to be like we're going to find out what's going on with Odo and the changelings?
Well, yes, it kind of
But it
led
wasn't,
you into
it was
a
all a
promise,
lie,
and then
wasn't
like
it?
blew it out the water.
I felt as bad as Odo when he sort of admitted at the end of it, you know, oh, it's all been a lie. And I was like, ugh.
But yeah, as I said to you, it kind of had a bit of a similarity as Data. You know, oh, I'm going to find out that I'm not the only one.
Exocons.
Yeah, I'm not the only one in existence, and then actually, no, you are. So,
well,
tough tits, you ain't got no friends or family.
Perhaps. We'll have to see what happens in the future.
Well, let's hope the next ones get better.
Anyhow, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was too bad. Not bad.
I'm still saying, meh.
Bye.
Bye. Yes, this is definitely the first time he's referred to as being a changeling. He's been the shifter up till now. Yes, everybody's angry.
Yeah, true.
It's true, which is a nice contrast to Next Generation where everybody's happy. Yeah, they're flying the runabout business. It possibly is missing a scene where Odo says computer obey commands from Croydon, but that would be a bit boring. I mean, ultimately anybody can pilot them who's been given permission, but we don't see the permission scene. Changelings, yes, can't really be injured.
No, we've seen a bullet go through Odo,
Yes.
so why would a rock hitting him on the head cause him a problem?
Yes, that doesn't explain why he gets knocked out by one.
No, it doesn't.
Because he
You're
has
right.
no internal organs to be injured.
No,
So, yeah.
makes no sense.
Is it all alive, or is it some dissembling? We shall find out in the future. Say no more. Section 31. Excellent. I think this is an episode that has much more meaning when you've seen the rest of the series.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say. So I guess if you haven't seen the rest of the series, it probably will seem a bit meh. But believe me, this pays off in a big way later on.
Yes.
Okay. And let's finish, as we always do,
with Purry.
Hello again, Purry here to talk about Vortex. I really don't remember much about this episode beyond the weird sort of globby shape-shifting locket and the fact that there was an alien race called the Miradon, was it? I think it was. I do remember being younger and kind of going, Miradon or something. Anyway, and I, to be honest, found this episode a bit forgettable first time round, clearly, because I didn't remember much. I did remember the end, that the thing, the guy's daughter was in a box. It wasn't a colony of changelings at all, but beyond that, not much. And it's okay. It's not maybe the most fantastic episode in the world, but I think it goes along not badly. I quite like Quark still being a very dodgy guy trying to sell stolen goods. The guy from the Gamma Quadrant is he seems likeable enough, if a bit of a sort of serial liar, and we do have sort of the story of them trying to use the idea of we've captured one of your people to make contact with a planet which has absolutely no interest in talking to them, which I also found quite entertaining. It is a shame. I mean, I suppose it's nice for it not to be an episode about the Federation saying your justice system is wrong, this man may be innocent. I mean, as far as we know, he has committed we know he did commit crimes and whatnot, but they do still manage to keep him sympathetic. And indeed, it's he obviously doesn't commit a serious enough crime that you're annoyed with Odo for letting him get away at the end. But beyond that, it kind of just meanders through, really. It doesn't have... I've got to admit it, I found it quite forgettable this time round as well. There's bits of it that you quite like, but beyond that, it's there. It's not... it's not annoying. It's not a bad episode. It's just it is very bland, and I'm having trouble remembering elements. But now I do remember the Raider ship, the one that was after them, looked quite neat. I'm trying to work out if we've seen it before or if we'll see it again. It kind of looked quite scary and spider-like, which I thought was quite cool, particularly when you see it kind of in the Vortex itself. But really. Yeah, the episode, it's okay. It distracts your attention for 45 minutes, but I don't think it really does much more beyond that. So, not a thumbs down, but definitely not a thumbs up. Considering that for a nothing episode, Ship in a Bottle did a lot more, that stuck in your mind. This one will probably drift out of my mind again, and I will be thinking, Vortex, is that the one with the thingy in the box and the funny key? Maybe. So, it just really remains for me to say thanks once again. Do keep up the good work. It's a really good podcast. And also, just thanks again and hello to everyone. Congratulations. I know it's probably late now, but congratulations to Brandy for getting the part in Shrek. I know she always says hello to me, and I do feel bad for not saying hello back. So, hello back officially from here. And I'll no doubt be replying to whatever things you're reviewing the next couple of episodes next week. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
We kind of sort of like that, just the messengers between Purry and Brandy. It sounds like he remembered about as much as you did then, which is interesting.
I didn't even remember the key though.
The daughter in a box. Door in a cardboard box. Door in a box.
Am I living in a box? Am I living in a cardboard box? Am I living in a box? Am I living in a cardboard box? Am I living in a box?
Yeah, we've not seen the Raider before, but we will see it again. And it is quite a distinctive design.
I like it.
Cool. I do believe the title adds to the episode's lack of memorability. That's part of the problem of it. I don't know what they'd have called it instead, but Vortex is just so vague and really not a big part of the actual episode that does lead to you forgetting what the hell it was about. Whereas Ship in a Bottle, you immediately think, oh yeah, I remember what that was about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Except that Ship in a Bottle kind of gives it away, doesn't it?
In some way. Well, when you see the episode, it adds to the memory. Yes. So there we go. 2 okay episodes, I think is fair to say. Nothing too exciting, but neither of the episodes were appalling to watch.
No, I enjoyed them both.
Indeed. So good. Right, what are we covering next time? Let's have a look.
That's a good question. I should be doing a Deep Space Nine.
After our summer holiday, yes, you are covering Deep Space Nine.
What am I covering?
Recording Thursday the 4th of September. And you'll be covering the Deep Space Nine episode Battle Lines, which features the return of Kaya Packer.
Is that the one I think it is?
I don't know. How am I supposed to know that? I'm not psychic.
Oh. Do we need to go into section 31, yes or no?
I think we should have a conversation after we finish recording about this.
In which case it probably is the one I think it is.
Yes. And I get the joy and delight of covering the Next Generation episode, Aquiel. Geordie love story. They're never good.
No.
And it has to rate as one of my, from memory, most disliked Next Generation episodes.
It's terrible.
So, look on the bright side. I think Battle Lines I remember being good.
I remember Battle Lines being really good.
Just brace yourselves for Aquiel, guys.
Yeah.
Brace yourselves.
Get beer in.
Thank you to everybody who contributed to this episode. It's always very much appreciated.
Yes, thank you. And I know some of you sent short feedback because of holidays or whatever, but all feedback is appreciated.
All feedback is very much appreciated. Okay, we'll catch you next time, guys. Take care. Cheerio, bye.
Bye. The bOrgCast is brought to you by the lovely people at GeekPlanetOnline.com.
Music at the beginning of this podcast was written and performed by Adam Buxton and is used with his kind permission. All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only and no copyright infringement is intended.
To contact us, you can use the forums at GeekPlanetOnline.com.
Visit our Tumblr site at bOrgCast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send email messages or MP3s to bOrgCast@GeekPlanetOnline.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or bOrgCastAmmo. #bOrgCast.